Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Friday, November 7th, 2025, the end of the day, the end of the week, our favorite time, our favorite show. My dear friends, Ray McGovern and Larry Johnson, returning for their weekly double duty, the Intelligence Community Roundtable. Let's start with the most talked about video of the week.
I'd like to ask about your father's relationship with Israel. He's taken over $230 million from pro-Israel groups. During the summer against Iran, even though he advised against it, Israel still attacked Iran. Israel has not been a great ally to the U.S. all the way since 1960 when they bombed the USS Liberty. Israel is a nation where Christians are constantly under attack in both Gaza and the West Bank. We talk about America first and defending Christians, but how can we do this if we align ourselves with a nation that does not do that itself?
There's no question my father's had frustration. In fact, I think he's had frustration throughout the whole conflict with both sides. At the same time, make no mistake, you have a nation that will develop a nuclear weapon, and you have a nation that will use that nuclear weapon against the Western way of life. There's no question about it.
In response to the nukes from Iran, Israel has nuclear weapons and is not a part of the IAEA, unlike Iran. And it's just sad to see because I've never seen the American president get treated the way he does by the Israeli government.
This is a president of peace. And sometimes you have to be slightly unconventional with how you get there. You use what you have. That is certainly what he's been able to do. Peace around the world sounds pretty good to me, and that's what this president is bringing.
Coming out of the mouth of a young man, and two deer in the headlights on the stage, Ray McGovern.
Well, this is what we need more of. You may recall that, there was another video, my favorite, where a very accomplished intelligence analyst interrupted John Brennan and asked him some real questions at this James Madison University, which is supposed to be sacrosanct, talking about CIA leaders. He embarrassed him, and the first thing Brennan did after listening says, "Who put you up to that? Who you went? I know." And then there became an actual confrontation where this fellow, his name is Speciale, okay, good countryman of yours, Judge. He stood his ground, and Brennan's going like this on his breast, and he stood his ground, and then all of a sudden he gets so discombobulated they leave. Now, I didn't see any security detail with Brennan. I imagine they were waiting outside, but I hope they cooled him down because it looked like he was going to have a heart attack on the spot.
Larry, on what we just saw at Auburn University.
Well, this kid obviously is a graduate of the Ray McGovern School of asking tough questions to important people. I'm sure he's got that certificate somewhere. I loved it watching. Watching Eric and Laura Trump tap dance. They put Bojangles to shame, trying to. There's only so much lipstick you could put on this pig.
Is the United States, Larry, actively enforcing or policing the Witkoff, Kushner, Trump, Gaza peace plan?
Not really, not to my knowledge. Yeah, I mean, the Israelis are allowed to continue killing Palestinians, and I think the heart of what that college student was asking is, here's Trump threatening to go to war in Nigeria because of the attacks of these radical Muslims on Christians. And yet Israel is killing Christians, burning Christian villages, burning and destroying Christian churches, spitting on Christians. And Trump is like, no big deal. So this hypocrisy on the part of Donald Trump it's sinking his presidency. Because we've seen the breakout over the past week with these Zionists launching these most vile, vicious attacks on Tucker Carlson, and it was back in the day it said don't get into a fight with somebody who's got a barrel of ink and can print, but now with social media, The Zionists are getting into a fight with Tucker Carlson, who's got 4.9 million subscribers, Candace Owen, who's got 5.5 million subscribers, Joe Rogan, who's got 20 million subscribers. You know, they're not going to win this one.
Here's their point, man. I'm sorry to subject you guys to this, but here is the Zionist American point man at his worst. Number 3.
And I just want the anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-West crowd to understand something. You're going to have to come through me and millions of people just like me, and you're not going to make it. You think your stupid little podcast is going to change the world like hell it is, not if I and everybody else have something to say about it. We cancel stuff all the damn time. Hitler admirers, Stalin admirers, Jew haters. You're damn right we're going to cancel them and deplatform them.
How about little Ada Fuentes?
We cancel stuff all the damn time.
How about Tucker Carlson? What did he do for the country?
We cancel stuff all the damn time.
Interviews Putin. He interviews the lowest of scum, genocidal maniacs on the face of the earth. They need to be afraid of regular Americans like you and me. They need to be afraid of us.
They don't have a lifetime job like a bureaucrat who we're going to protect. And if they're your friend, there's something wrong with you. You don't get to wrap your psychotic, mental, unhinged, Nazi, Klan, jihadist bullshit around American patriotism. We're surrounded by cowards who have microphones, who have TV cameras, who have websites, who have columns. Cowards. To Tucker Carlson, I say, did you have a head injury? What happened to you? You platform these people, you deceive your audience, you lie to your audience, you become a full-blown, out-of-the-closet Jew hater.
Ray, how does this thug advance the Zionist cause? I would think he would drive young people to the place where Charlie Kirk was going before he was murdered, which is that that Israel is no friend of the United States.
Well, he's clearly talking to people almost as old as I am. No youthful movement would buy all that stuff. Judge, it looks like we're getting under his skin. I mean, it's not just Rogan, it's us. I mean, what do we have on our breastplate? Truth. It's a big deal. And the truth is gradually becoming known. I mean, revolutions or changes of heart start with new technology. Just like Khomeini in Paris with these new technology, these tape recorders, okay, taped his sermons and they put them on a little cassette and it went back to Iran, sung from every minaret, and there was a revolution. Now, this is more slow in coming, but we have iPhones and we have all kinds of recordings of what the Israelis are doing in Gaza. It's genocide, it's forced starvation. That finally is getting through. Doctors, lawyers, all kinds of people are being sensitized, and we're guilty of that because we need to sensitize all these people. Maybe they'll do something about it.
Larry, I think Ray is 100% correct. And I think people like Mark Levin are actually driving young people away from the Zionist cause. In fact, I think the Zionists are terrified that they're hemorrhaging support in the United States. Why do they send a thug like that out?
While in Moscow, I met with the head of the current Communist Party, organized since '93, Mr. Zyuganov. And then after that, I met with someone who is part of the government. And in reference to Mr. Zyuganov, he said, boy, we are so glad that he is in charge of the Communist Party. The same thing applies to Mark Levin. We're so glad that he is the spokesman, the voice, the face of the pro-Zionist crowd. Because the more you put him out there, the more it's going to alienate everybody. The more it's going to drive people apart. The more it's going to expose them. And I tell Mark to his face, Mark, I don't hate Jews. I just hate you personally. Okay.
I'm waiting for somebody in the press corps to ask the president of the United States if he stands by Prime Minister Netanyahu's refusal to condemn prison rape and attack on the woman who exposed the rape, not on the rapists who admit what they did, Ray McGovern. I guess this has been going on for a long time, but now we see it on tape.
Well, it also speaks to integrity. There was at least one person with integrity that said, despite my career or my future, despite the risk of my going to an Israeli jail, I'm going to air that thing. I'm going to show how this group of Israeli soldiers raped this one Palestinian prisoner. It's graphic. It's awful. It's awful, but it's out there. And what happened to her and what happened to the person she reports to? Well, they're in deep trouble now. And that shows the sickness of the majority of Israeli citizenship. I mean, citizenry, they just really are kind of gone off the deep end now. And Netanyahu is their person. And so it's a deeply seated problem. They think he's still popular, and so does he. We've got to deprive him of the wherewithal to continue all this. We, right here in the United States, it's Trump that's enabling all this. We've got to make him stop. Maybe he will after a little while.
You know, Larry, one of the things that the young man at Auburn University said was that he felt badly at the way the Israelis and Prime Minister Netanyahu treats the president. It is clear that they dominate him. They think they can get away with anything, and Trump will not stop the cargo planes from landing there every day.
Yeah, well, it gets back to this. Is it America first or is it Israel first? And despite Trump's campaign promises to put American interests first, and this has been Tucker Carlson's argument all along, that what is in the actual interest of the United States, and subjugating ourselves as a bunch of servile sycophants for Bibi Netanyahu and the Zionist crowd does not serve America's interests. And yet Donald Trump, and as the student correctly pointed out, is financially compromised by the amount, almost $250 million he has taken in from these Zionist interests, and stocking his cabinet with Zionist supporters. So this is different. Labeling someone a Zionist, let's be precise what we're talking about. Somebody who believes that this magical deity said, hey, I like you people better than everybody else, and I'm giving you this piece of land, and on top of it, you can kill anybody that's in it that's not part of your group. I think that
Ted Cruz believes that. He told that to Tucker Carlson.
I think it's sick. It's ridiculous, and I think Tucker was correct in calling that a heresy, a religious heresy.
Yes,
because it ignores the fact that ostensibly that the Bible, when people quote the Old Testament, it's the concept that God created all human beings, not just one special group. And it's this special group nonsense. It's just starting to get caught in everybody's throat. It's like, you're as much a human being as anybody else, and treat other people. But once you dehumanize them and you can treat them as a group and assign guilt to the group and punish the group, then all of a sudden you're in the authoritarian territory, the land of dictators.
Here's President Trump at Mar-a-Lago 2 days ago. As you listen to him, bear in mind that on Monday he will be meeting at the White House with al-Jawlani, the ISIS leader, who's now the head of Syria and who is slaughtering Christians. Chris, cut number one.
If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about, and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. These are cherished people. These are great people. Leave them alone. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast before it's too late. If they don't, there's going to be hell to pay.
Long careers. Have you ever heard a president speak like that? We're coming in with guns a-blazing.
I have not, and I've had a longer career than him, older than Larry at least. No, I mean, this is a joint Zionist and Christian crusade, if you will. I mean, the Muslims, they're the target. They're the ones that we started crusades with in the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages. So, you know, I think he's getting this from his Minister of War or Secretary of War, Hexeth. He's sort of deranged kind of person who thinks that the Christians have to do what the Old Testament says because the Jew, blah, 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 blah. They don't understand it. So here you have the President of the United States threatening to go into Nigeria, threatening to go into Venezuela. Oh, there are a lot of Christians in Venezuela. Well, yeah, he's deranged, okay? And if I'm Putin, if I'm a Russian leader and I'm looking at all this, I'm saying, oh my God, let's not provoke this person. Let's play it cool here. And what Putin has been doing is very adroit and appearing very, very, very strong, but also willing to deal. So will that ever happen? I don't know who can predict what Trump is going to do. And Trump, let's face it, is the fly in the ointment here against developing a decent Russian-American relationship, which Trump says he wants to do, Putin really wants to do, but not against these odds. So what we've seen this past week has been a very kind of circumspect way. How are we going to reply to these tests? We can't even get a straight answer from the White House whether he means nuclear.
Larry, Ray raises a good point, but let me ask you this. Aside from whether or not we're going to have nuclear tests, I think you told us that it would take 3 years to set these up, by which time Trump's term is nearly over. What national security threat does Nigeria pose to the United States, Larry Johnson?
Well, they were pretty good at running scams, where they'd empty people's bank accounts, but they've been doing that for, good Lord, 25 years, quite a long period of time. But in terms of they're not threatening to attack the United States, they don't have the military capability. You have had groups on the coast that have gone out, taken over oil platforms, held people hostage until the oil companies would show up and give them soccer balls and shoes, and then they let them, free. I mean, it's just ridiculous. What's so sickening is that here is al-Jilani, a bona fide member who was part of ISIS, and then part of al-Nusra, and somewhere along that line, he was recruited by or suborned by the Central Intelligence Agency, and he became an intelligence asset. And yet, while being an intelligence asset, he was in command of people who executed Christians, executed Alawites, executed Shia Muslims, all in the name of his vision of Islam, which is the takfiri. It's a heresy, but nonetheless, the idea that they were more holy than all other Muslims. And now we've cleaned him up, taken the reward off his head, and said, "Oh yeah, we'll do business with you." It's why that's why the rest of the world, when they hear the United States talk about, "Oh, we're waging a war on terrorism," they just shake their heads. They recognize it's just a convenient ploy of the moment.
Hey, Ray, what do you speculate, or maybe you actually know from your former colleagues, what intel the intelligence community is telling Trump about Venezuela? They're not selling us drugs, Mr. President. You shouldn't be killing these people. We don't have enough evidence to go into court. What do you think they're telling him?
Well, it depends on whether the assistant to the president for national security affairs, a fellow named Marco Rubio, who happens to also be the Secretary of State, whether he is bottlenecked, preventing a cogent, informed analysis from getting to the president. Now, everybody knows that Marcos had it in for not only Cuba, but Venezuela, anybody else there in this part of Latin America. So if he gets a decent memo such as we did, Larry and I and others just 2 days ago on Venezuela and what the president may get involved in to his detriment, if he gets a memo like that from the people working on active duty now, there's every chance in the world that Rubio can just put that in the circular file, you know? In other words, I don't know what Trump is getting. I don't think he's getting any cogent analysis, and that's why we stepped in this week with our best analyst on these things, and Larry knows him better than I, Fulton Armstrong. And if somehow, by some miracle, the president gets to read that, or someone of his advisors says, oh, these guys have pretty good credentials, they've been right since Iraq, why don't you read this? Then there's some semblance of prospect that the president will rein himself in, the more so since the Russians and the Chinese, the world has changed. We've got to get rid of that, okay?
You know, Larry, if I hate to say this, but I have to, if Tulsi Gabbard were not in the government, she probably would have signed that memo that you and Ray and the others signed.
Yeah. No,
I don't know what she's telling him, but what you guys told him, who knows if he'll ever read it. Rubio would definitely keep it from him if he could. Was such a profound argument against going into Venezuela.
Yeah, she's not in the position to really to oversee the analysts. You know, the analysts that are supposed to draft this would be either at under CIA under Ratcliffe or at State Department and the Bureau of Intelligence. So Tulsi's job more is to try to coordinate that. But you know, we've seen, you know, if the reports that have been put out regarding the political influence being brought to bear on intelligence, which, you know, shocker, that's just been the history of it going back to Vietnam and even preceding that, then it continues. And Trump is notoriously labeled not a reader, and he is very much driven by the last person that he talked to. What's interesting now, it looks like the United States, you know, the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier that was headed there is apparently pulled up and stopped, and it is no longer headed to Venezuela. And then Trump is intimating that, well, maybe we're not going to do anything militarily at all. So who knows?
So maybe somebody told Trump that those Chinese coastal to ship missiles can reach 100 miles offshore. Maybe maybe the USS Gerald Ford stopped at 120 miles just to be sure.
Yeah.
I had one comment under that memo we did. Somebody said defense arrangements on these warships, they weren't so formidable. And when the Houthis went after them, so why did you say formidable? Well, I said formidable would be nice. Okay, one missile can ruin Donald Trump's whole day and get a bunch of sailors killed.
To end on a light note, gentlemen, I don't know if you've seen this. The sandwich guy. So a grand jury refused to indict him for felony assault. My friend and former colleague, the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro, then charged him with misdemeanor assault, which does not require an indictment. And last week they had a jury trial, and on Thursday afternoon he was found not guilty. after the jury saw that tape a half a dozen times.
Yes, and even, Judge, even though that person at whom that was thrown testified under oath that he felt a very bad tingling there beneath his armored vest there, and it really, really hurt. And he thought it might be something chemical or something like this. So juries are a real instrument for pursuing justice. I'm a sandwich guy, should have gotten off free. Too bad he missed the guy's face, in my view.
The jury saw right through the complaints. It turned out that this guy, the ICE agent, had pictures of himself, framed pictures of himself being struck by the sandwich on his desk in his office. Now, Larry, if you were the victim of an assault, would you show a picture of yourself being assaulted?
Well, look, the reality was it was assault. Look, let's have one single standard. If we can use, if there's, that was an act of violence. Now, admittedly, throwing a sandwich, and it didn't hurt the guy, but it was a type of violence. So if we excuse one and say, well, it's okay, he did it because we thought that was funny, but here's Trump blowing up boats. And, you know, I like to take the stand of no violence. Don't, just because, you know, here was John Brennan the other day, as Ray was talking about it earlier, finger poking somebody, the Speciale, the former CIA guy. Speciale would have been totally entitled to punch him in the face. He didn't, to his credit. So put me down in the no violence category. I don't think it's right to throw something at a law enforcement officer, and I don't think it's right for a law enforcement officer to start beating somebody that was just standing there.
Just like the president of Mexico should have punched that guy in the nose who groped her in public. It's hard for me to believe she didn't have any security around her. Guys, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing you both on Monday. Have a nice weekend. Thank you. And coming up on Monday, our usual team, Alistair Crook, Ray McGovern, Larry Johnson, and are you ready for this? Professor Mohammad Marandi from Tehran. Larry and I just spent a week with him in Moscow. Professor Marandi will be with us in the afternoon, as will Professor Jeffrey Sachs. Judge Napolitano